we do, and that's the Premack. And that leaves us our third and final category of our science and the foundation of what we do, and that's the Premack Principle. The Premack Principle literally means doing something you really don't want to do to get something you really want. So I like to consider this and compare it to two different things, but they're the same. But reward versus work. We go to a job that we hate just to receive the paycheck that we like. But this also translates to motivation and work. Now, motivation can be anything. Motivation can be positive reinforcement. It can be positive punishment. I can be highly motivated not to do something if I'm going to get reprimanded really strictly for it. The same way I can be motivated to do something if the reward is really tall. So this is where I kind of create my own premise of Premack Principle. Premack Principle is the relation between motivation and work. I like to consider all dogs are working dogs. And with that mentality, you can create a better trained dog as well as a better relationship with your dog. Too many people are humanizing canines, and that's where the downfall of dog training and the dog world is going, because whenever you humanize something that's not a human, you're disrespecting their genetics, you're disrespecting their history, and you're not respecting them as their own individual creature. And by appreciating that they are an animal, by appreciating their canine genetics and working our way into their way, we get a better relationship with our dog. And we do this by believing every dog is a working dog. If you have a home pet that you just want to be a home pet but better obedience, consider obedience training as its job. And of course, if you have a working dog as a hunting dog, hunting is its job, so on and so forth. So with that mentality, let's look at it with human terms. Since we're wanting to humanize dogs, let's bring canines into more humanistic things. So whenever you get hired at a job, first, they're going to hire you based on your characteristics as an employee that relates to the job that is expected. Let's say I want somebody to be a bricklayer. I don't want somebody that is frail, weak, small, sickly of the sun, things like that, because they're going to be working outside. They're going to be lifting a lot of heaviness. So I want somebody that fits that role. If I want somebody to design my website, I'm not going to pick somebody that's never worked with a computer before. So whenever we hire a dog for the job, we look for certain things. One of the dog trainers I first apprenticed with, whenever I was really young, they would say it all the time. Fat people have fat dogs, lazy people have lazy dogs. He was a working dog trainer. And it kind of makes sense when you hear it all the time that dogs mimic their owners and owners mimic their dogs. Well, a lazy person who enjoys sitting on the couch watching TV all the time and not going out and doing a lot of activity will not want a pet dog that requires a lot of exercise, that is really energetic. You'll see them kind of lean towards the bulldogs and things like that, things that are very self-reliant and just kind of mopey. And then if you're wanting a dog for like protection work, you're not going to pick a Chihuahua. Yeah, they have the aggression, but they don't have the size, and they don't have temperament a lot of times. So you figure out what your job is, and you hire accordingly. The next thing we do is we establish pay. Okay? If I go to a job, they tell me you're working 12 hours a day in the sun picking up 100-pound rocks and moving them from one side to the other, but we're only going to pay you $5, chances are I'm not going to be motivated enough to do that job. But if they say, hey, we're paying $100 an hour, I'll do that job. I'll do it with a smile. I may die that week from exhaustion, but I'll do it. So we have to establish pay. And usually with pay, to take this a step further, we usually have a base pay. We usually have a bonus. And then we usually have what we call kickers. Some jobs, you'll hear this all the time, like, yeah, we'll give you a bonus, but if you sell, 20 of these this week, we'll give you one for free. So those are just extra outside of the bonus as well. So in our training, food is a base pay. All dogs will work with food if you do it properly. So let's say if you just want an obedient dog, and you break, instead of letting them free graze all day, you break their food into 2 sessions a day, once at night, you can use that food and do a routine with the dog. Sit down, stay here, place, whatever, and use that food to reward. Or after the routine, you can dump it and reward the dog at that point, intermediate, whatever. And you do the same thing at the end of the day. That would be the base pay. And then let's say the dog does really awesome. It does that obedience super great. It didn't get distracted not one time. It was uber focused on you 100%. Say now you play ball. You may play fetch. You may play tug. That's the bonus. That's going to really bring out that dog's energy. Then you have kickers. Kickers are like somewhere in the day where the dog's not expected to be 100%, but you're cooking and the dog's doing something. You say sit, the dog sits. You can give it physical praise. So it's not as big as the paycheck, it's not as big as the bonus, but it is still good praise. It is still a positive thing to keep the dog motivated. So all these things are related to pay. It's how we are rewarding our dog. Next, we have to go through training. Nothing is worse as an adult than getting hired at a new job, expecting the training, and they just throw you out, and you just have to learn on your own. You get frustrated. You'll mess a lot of things up because they don't know, that you don't know what you're doing. And then you kind of get mad, like, well, you never taught me how to do it to begin with. Why are you yelling at me, kind of thing. So training, we have to make sure we walk them through those 3 training steps that we're going to be talking about so they understand the job. Because as a boss, if you take an employee and you walk them through step by step and you make sure they understand what is expected, then you can leave them alone. You can pretty much trust that they're going to do the right thing. And that will lead to the last thing, which is going to be praise and reprimand. As a boss, it is our job to praise them when they do something right and to reprimand them when they do something wrong. But it's also important to balance this with what happened. If they did something that was very bad and we give them a smack on the wrist, they're probably going to do it again because they say, well, last time it wasn't that bad, I got away with it mostly. But if you give them a good, solid, firm reprimand, they'll say, I'll never do that again. I'm going to be motivated to do the right thing. Same thing with praise. If they do something really big that they feel is really important, and you're just like, yeah, good job, appreciate it, and you walk off, they're going to get demotivated on that praise. But if you meet equally with the balance of praise, they're going to get it. So the Premack Principle says that they're going to do the less desirable behavior to get the more desirable reward. So this is everything that kind of balances in here, okay? If they're doing the wrong thing, that is because you don't have the right balance of the reward, of the pay. So keep this all in check. You always have to consider. And in one video you've seen where I was training Kane, and at first just food was working. And then all of a sudden he became distracted. He started getting burnt out. And then I became more active and everything. I had to increase that level of motivation to keep him working. So now we hired the dog to do the work. We developed a pay scale. Also, we took them through the training language. And now we're balancing them by proofing and praising and reprimanding them whenever they deserve it. So hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you. And hopefully this will change the way you interact with your dog, because if you think that all dogs are working dogs, that makes them your employee. That makes you their boss. And what kind of boss would you like to have? Are you that type of boss? Are you the jerk boss? Or are you the cool boss? Or are you the one that earns your respect? And that you respect ownership with the dog through the Premack Principle, the balance of, and that all boils down right here with our relationship with the dog through the Premack Principle, the balance of work and motivation, and reward and work, and picturing it in this motion.